There's a lot of conversations around unbanning Cabaji in the One Piece TCG. Many Nami players have actually never had a chance to play with Cabaji, me personally as well, but I've done a lot of content on this channel kind of talking about Cabaji and also trying him in the unlimited lobbies on the sim just to showcase how Cabaji is still a busted card in this deck. But a lot of people don't think so with the way that the game has been power crept and so many things change. These two content creators, Cardi Kazuki and Atrocious TCG, have actually collaborated together on this video that we're going to be looking over, going over some matchups and trying out a list and having a load of fun. Honestly, it was a great video to watch. What I will not be doing is going over the majority of the video in the beginning, which is gameplay. I highly recommend you check that out and just join them along with some fun games. What I will be doing, reacting probably to the end of this video, going over Atrocious's thoughts on the list and why he kind of built it a certain way, and go over why Cabaji may or may not be good with the increase in on plays in a deck like this. If it was to get unbanned, does it mean that Blackbeard comes up at the top? My personal opinion is that Cabaji is still insane, and it just makes it so the mid-range and control matchups just become just really bad decks. Like Nami can almost never lose to them, and it just makes it so aggro matchups are like technically a lot worse, but then Cabaji and Moji just being 3k bodies are actually really nice to like swing into things. So there's a lot of like mixing and matching in terms of how things could ultimately play out. But you let me know before we hop into their video, what do you think about Cabaji and Nami? Is it a good time to unban it? Will we unban it? Or is it just best that Nami never is tier 1, so Bandai never bans anything out of her, and all the skill pilots can just take advantage of Nami while everyone thinks she's trash? Sound off in the comments down below. Let's hop right to the video. Should Cabaji still be banned? Let's test him out, featuring Atrocious TCG. Leave a like, and again, go to the video. It's going to be linked down below. This kind of... it's kind of nice, like it's sectioned off here, so we're just going to hop into this final section talking about the list.
Here on screen is Atrocious Jake's Nami list that he ran in all the matchups today. So yeah, what did you think of Cabaji in the deck?
I think Cabaji is pretty good in the deck, but I think it forces you to play like a super interesting game plan, right? Of just like extreme aggression on your turn. I don't like, in comparison to like the one drop Nami and stuff like that, I don't think it helps you against Blackbeard. Like, I actually think you might be losing more, right? If you're playing against Blackbeard, it might be a lose more card up until they like run out of cards in hand. Then you can maybe explode with Cabaji. But trying to find the Cabaji and Moji at the same time is difficult. Right. Not going to say that I played it perfectly by any means. And
it also makes it so that like one cost Nami is really hard to work in this deck because you need two characters out at the same time to make it work, and you just can't pick them. So a lot of times you like, okay, you swing in with Nami, you find a Pilaf, you find a Love, whatever, but then like in that pile, you bottom deck Emoji. In that pile, you bottom deck a Cabaji, and you already have Emoji out. It's really hard to get them going. And with how well removal has evolved in this game and how good certain leaders are at it, it's hard to keep these around. So you almost like have to pay a certain amount of Dawn and play it out in sequence, where you have to pay like 3 Dawn to just draw 2 cards, discard 1. So you have to play the Moji, you have to play the Cabaji. And then when you have that out, it's almost like those cards like go away, and you just have to continue to play out more on the same turn, like you're incentivized to, and then you take a hit or two. So it's really interesting in that sense. Like you have to kind of maximize your triggers. Like in this case, like Brickfist is in this list, which I think is correct. I'm not sure about Snake Dance in here, but regardless, like you just see a whole swath of like triggers across, which I think is correct. Like you need to make sure that your hits, like your Gum Gavel, your Brickfist, your Snake Dance, all of these triggers like bounce characters. So you want to make sure that you're able to maximize on that to reuse your Cabajis, or if you don't have that, reuse your Kayas. I like to use a Mr. one here to potentially get back like a Gum Gavel. I'm not sure about like the One of Zeph. I feel like One of Zeph, like it's cool, like it bounces this as well. I just feel like in this current metagame, the surprise like Rush Usopp like outweighs the benefit of being able to bounce something like Cabaji, but I could be wrong.
But the idea of the deck is to just constantly bounce Cabaji back, right? Cabaji or Kaya. That's why, like, you know, you have the Brickfist in there. Snake Dance is just a generically great card in Nami, right, to bounce back these characters anyways,
like plus minus on it
for counters. So you always want to do that. And then like a Gavel can pick them up, just a One of Zeph to pick either Cabaji or a Kaya up.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff. Dazbones is kind of an interesting card. Adam Cisneros convinced me to put Dazbones in there in replacement of Deathwink, so that's why he's in there. But He's really nice. I mean, because you're running like these aggressive draws, right? With Cabaji, you know, having to trash one, Kaya is trash two. There's a lot of times a one drop event that you want to get back, and you know, with these right here, the 8 cards of Cabaji and Moji, you're cutting a couple different pieces, like the 1-cost Nami, which I really wish was in this deck.
Right.
I don't know where I'd fit it though. Maybe take out a Zeph, take out a Brick Fist. And then slide those.
Again, it's probably not that great based on like how I highlighted it. I like this version where like, okay, yeah, like I understand the reasoning for like the Zeph, you want to maximize on the bounce. Snake Dance is definitely much better in this version. If Cabaji was to be unbanned, I just don't think it works with the Nami. I think like they almost like work separately, but if they work together, like I'm probably going to be posting some gameplay later this week with someone on the Nami Discord. We're going to work together and maybe post some games, because it's hard to get like unlimited games. But I'm going to try them out together. My initial thought is that they are bad together, but maybe just the fact that you're able to like search, and like if they get bottom decked or something like that, Nami can push them back up. Like it just like kind of adds to the amount of searching.
Or like take out emoji, like take out emoji, Zeph, Brick Fist, maybe slide in like 3 Namis, because there's so many good matchups for Nami, especially like going first, because going first you're. And
I'm happy that Atrocious is bringing up this 5-cost, because it actually is like an alternative route, because Cabaji just cares about the naming of it. And I don't know, I have my reservations for it. It is a 2k counter, which is nice. Like you're not playing Apis, so it's like an additional 2k counter. But what's nice about this is that it can search up Richie, so you might have blockers that can further help your 1-cost Nami if you want to play it that way. So it's really interesting.
Best play is probably like Moji. Kaya is tempting, but Kaya makes your hand really small, like at the beginning of the game, because you're losing out on a card. So, or you're.
It's almost why like you almost never, like I've kind of swapped off this because someone talked about it in the Nami Discord, and I've kind of adopted it too. You just don't want to play Kaya early unless it's against Blackbeard, where yeah, you get very few opportunities, especially late game, where they're just gonna like keep like using their leader ability on you. Just use out your Kais in that matchup, but in every other matchup, like it's just better to hold until you need to get rid of cards like Impel Down and dead events that you don't really want to use to maybe enable something like a Love Beam. So in something like this, you're probably using
out on like one extra card technically, right? And a lot of times you haven't like built up your hand to be able to do certain things. So
right, and you do run the risk of her dying to like a Brook or something early on too.
Yeah, like early on, because like if you're like, shoot, what's that one guy? Blackbeard, right? If you're Blackbeard, right? If you're going into a 10 Dawn turn, right? And maybe I have, you know, the on play effects, like I can play Kaya, and you're probably not going to, if you don't have Doc Q on the field already, there's no way that Kaya is going to get KO'd. So it's like a safe time to play her.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
But it's really difficult in the matchups. It's also like a completely different way, I feel like, from playing the other Nami, or I guess I say other Nami. I'm thinking of other Nami as like the Namis, the Marguerites, Boodles people are playing right now. Like,
all done, Sue?
Yep, and not just with your hair.
YouTube ads.
With the help of Zero's small business accounting software.
We'll skip this one.
Like that kind of package, because this package is super aggressive, and it's a little bit different.
That's true. Yeah, there's no blockers at all, so you're having to mill yourself ASAP.
You take every single swing.
Right. There's
I don't know about every single swing sometimes.
Emoji. I just want to get your thoughts on it. Do you think that is worth considering? It's pretty expensive. I don't know if you have
5-cost, right?
Yep. And it plays out like a blocker, the Richie.
Reveal up to 1 Richie and put it in your hand. Play up to 1 Richie. That means you would have to run the 2-drop Richie as well. So no, I don't think so, because 5 Dawn is like your entire turn without putting back like Kaya or Cabaji in hand. Because a lot of times with Zeph, it's like you play either, it's like when you're against what is that, Bonnie, right? Like a deck like Bonnie, you play Zeph because they're not going to get rid of it, you know?
Right.
And you have the ability, like you can take that one because they haven't swarmed the board either. They don't have any swarm effects.
Right.
To be able to do it. Even decks like Enel, right? Even though it can easily KO it, like you force them to be able to KO it.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing down a body.
Whereas that's one thing. Like I think a lot of people forget is like when you're playing out decks like this, even with like Doc Q and Blackbeard, it's important to be able to play. It's important to be able to play these cards to force these answers. Otherwise, your opponents end up using this Dawn to attach to their characters in their leader and attack into you. So make them play the 5-cost Nami and KO your Zeph. Like make them play the 4-cost event and kill your stuff. Like make them use their Dawn so their attacks are inoptimal, because as they were mentioning, in this type of build where you are going to be proactively using your Dawn more, you have just less for your events. That's the thing. Like you just have to like play it out and really understand it. You just will have on average less for your events, which is why I kind of like the the Dazbone sneakily, because it just allows you to use your Gum Gavels over and over and over again. And it kind of makes it so your level of beams almost always will be drawing cards. But yeah.
Against Doflamingo, it's really just a Hail Mary kind of play. And 5 Dawn is just way too expensive, I feel like.
That's potentially like 3 or 4 events you could play.
Yeah. Especially in the meta that we're in right now. Like I know in the treasure cups that I've played in 2 treasure cups. So probably how many rounds is it? Like I've played in like 9 rounds, 7 and 9 or 8 and 9. So 17 rounds I played against 1 Doflamingo, 1 Blackbeard, and I think like 2 purple Luffys, which is super odd because they take up a lot of the meta, right? You would expect to see them more. And so like if you just hit those matches, right, like this Moji's not going to help you.
No,
that's true. Yeah.
Good thing to understand.
So between this Cabaji Moji list versus the traditional Marguerite and Budo list, do you have a preference kind of? And yeah, also take into account, this is like literally the first time we're playtesting these lists. I'm pretty sure there could be more changes to like tech more to benefit from Cabaji. But yeah, just first
like
impressions.
I'm sure some of my...
So one tech that folks are trying right now in the Nami Discord is like Slave Arrow. It's like a 1-cost event, and as part of its cost, you bounce like a 2-cost or more. So you can't bounce Dazbones, you can't bounce Kaya, but you can bounce Cabaji, and then you get like a 4K boost. So it's an option. It's like a 2 of, it's not a 4 of. It's supposed to be like a soft replacement of Snake Dance just because it's 1. The 1 Dawn versus 2 is obviously like it's just double better. Like it costs half, which is an insane rate. So
numbers are off like on these events and things like that. Like this was just literally something I put together the night before. I sent a message to a couple of my friends that play Nami, and then I locked it in, did not play like any games with it. So I would say that with bias, I prefer the Marguerite Oodle builds of Nami, just because like that's what I'm familiar with, that's what I know. Who knows, like Cabaji, maybe I was a little too aggressive, maybe focusing a little bit too much on Cabaji. I've never played with him until today. There's been no reason for me to ever think about
not
Cabaji
even for the sake of content.
OPO4. So
yeah, and no one has touched this card since OPO2 as well. So
yeah, the only person that has is like that Mill guy right on YouTube. Like he's
Atrocious knows. Atrocious shout out. Atrocious. You can ask me questions. Even if you think I'm a bad One Piece player, I appreciate the shout out. Even if you think I'm a bad One Piece player, I'm your friend, Atrocious. I like your content. I
the only one that's done actual like Nami content, because he only does Nami content.
Right. Okay, and then so final verdict, do you think Cabaji is okay to be unbanned?
Shoot, I think
Atrocious thought.
That's a...
Before Atrocious answers, I'm gonna make it clear again. I do not think Cabaji should be unbanned. It will make Nami that much better against the slower and mid-range matchups. It will turn Nami into a high tier 2, low tier 1 type of deck, and it will just put eyes on Nami. Bandai will ban something, and the deck will never be able to recover. Just too many eyes. They will change their design. I might be psyop like conspiracy theoring this, but they will not support this deck anymore.
I think it really just all depends on what happens, right? Like if they ban like, okay, so I know a lot of people don't think they'll ban the Dofi leader, but this is Bandai we're talking about, and they love banning leaders. So they might ban the Dofi leader. If they went ahead and banned the Dofi leader, I think they would also hit Blackbeard.
Yes,
because especially in the OP10 meta, they are hand in hand.
Yeah.
As the top 2 clear best decks in format. Like if you look at if I added up all the placements the other week of like the OP10, I didn't factor in the Japan finals and EBO2, but like there was 28 top cut spots for Dofi, 23 top cut spots for Blackbeard, and 7 purple Luffy.
Yeah,
top
that's
slots,
the meta.
and that was the top 3. So like if they hit Dofi, they're gonna hit Blackbeard. And if they hit those 2, Nami stonks are through the roof, right?
Yeah, like okay, so good Blackbeard players can stomp Nami players like really well. Like it's actually not that favored. Doflamingo obviously just like insanely good into Nami. And if both of them get hit, like it's probably like if you errata Dofi leader, you almost have to errata like Blackbeard. Like I feel like it's like a logistics thing. Because like, there's a couple of options you could ban out of Blackbeard. I mean, Blackbeard's getting support. That's the thing, right? Like Blackbeard's getting support in the new set. That's the problem. So do you ban an errata Dofi leader and then ban a card outside of Blackbeard? And then if that happens, Nami shoots through the roof. Because do you ban it in such a way where the leaders are unplayable and the meta changes? Because like even in the new stuff, I haven't had a chance to test OP10 too much, but it can't be that bad if both those leaders disappear.
Right?
It
like
can't be that bad.
You nail 2 insanely bad matchups, which then Cabaji becomes that much more valuable. So I don't think they should unban Cabaji just simply because they're more than likely. I feel like I can never predict Bandai because whenever I try to, they do something off the wall, wild, and in my opinion, slightly lazy with the leaders. But anyways, that's a conversation for another day. But if they touch those 2 decks, then Nami becomes significantly better. So don't touch Cabaji.
Like everyone in the comments needs to understand, like I need you to manifest it. We cannot unban Cabaji. If we unban Cabaji, I will not be playing the One Piece TCG anymore because the deck will become too good. Nami will become too good. They will, don't lie to me, they will not reban Cabaji. They will just errata Nami. They will just errata Nami. That's all they'll do. And they'll make it so much worse. They'll make it so like you have to win on your turn or something, neutering the deck, like absolutely annihilating the deck. The deck only works because you can win on your turn or your opponent's turn. If they made it so you have to win on your turn, the deck would be awful. Garbage. A horrible deck. Like near unplayable. That we do not need this card.
She's already going to get better, but you never want Nami to be the best deck. Because if she is, then that's what gets her banned.
Right. Okay, cool.
Long-winded answer.
No, perfect answer. More insight than I would have had because I wasn't the one who played out the Cabaji, so yeah, way more knowledge on that card than I do at the moment.
Yeah, it just really all depends on what they do with the ban list.
Right.
Yeah, it really does.
Okay, and just to play it safe, keep it banned because yeah, as you mentioned, if the meta changes, Nami could suddenly become too oppressive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I've beaten Dofis, I've beaten Ploofies, I've beaten Blackbeards. Like it can still win. It's just an incredibly low rate. And so if they plan on banning stuff like,
you know how you beat Purple Luffy, like 3 to 4 of your triggers need to be draw twos, and even then you have to play it right. Even against Doflamingo, you need at least 3 of your triggers drawing you 2, or against Doflamingo, you just never want to draw Pilaf until it's late. Unless you're like 20 cards deep, you don't want to draw Pilaf. You want them to be triggers, or you just until you have enough done. And against Purple Luffy, like you need your triggers to draw you cards. That matchup's like pretty bad in my opinion. They just ramp up so high, and then they just force all your 4K counters out early. And then against Blackbeard, you just like almost need to run out your Kayas early, take a hit or 2, and then you can run out like Pilaf into this, into that, and counter out large later on. Then you're fine. But if you don't find your Kayas early, they end up being 2K counters, and you just lose all this potential in your deck.
Just leave Nami alone. Don't do anything.
Leave Nami alone.
If anything, ban Impel Down All-Stars. I hate that card.
No.
I hate it so much.
Oh, this is literally only used for the trigger, right?
Yes.
It is, yeah. I have used it, and I think if you look at like my Treasure Cup VODs, I have had plays where I play Impel Down All-Stars on my turn.
Oh. Wait, it just makes you trash 2 cards?
Yep.
Yes, because then it is more likely to proc off Love Mellow, right? Because you need 4 cards before you play the Love Mellow.
Oh, that's big brain.
Big brain, folks. We all know, us Nami players, we know, play out the Impel Down. This is great tech in the Deathwing days as well. Important for Love Mellow. Just great tech in general. Just great tech in general. There are random niche situations where like you lose a card to like, you pitch a card, something like Gavel, so then you can play like a Mr. One that you can then snake dance back because you know one of your triggers is like snake dance. Like there's like all these random niche scenarios that you can like think of if you
so if you have a lot of dead cards, like 5 Impel Down All-Stars in your hand, you just play them down for 1 Dawn if you don't have a Kaya, and now you can activate your Love Mellow and draw.
Oh, dang, I didn't even know that. That's why I brought you on. At someone with Nami experience.
Big sec.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first play that you would think of, but man, it feels so bad. Your opponent's always confused. They're like, did you just trash 3 cards from your hand? And it's like, yeah, I did.
On purpose.
It's high tier.
It was completely intentional.
I miss the Deathwing days with that.
Okay.
But.
So yeah, thanks Jake for being on the channel, helping me with this video and playing Nami for us. Do you have any shout outs or any plugs you'd like to make right now?
My only plug would be like, comment, subscribe to Cardi Kaizoku, one of the first One Piece YouTubers I started watching. Big fan, long time viewer, first time video.
Let me hit him up with
guest. Thank you.
Guess.
That's so kind of you. And yeah, couldn't have asked for a better person to collaborate with. Jake's been killing it. So yeah, check out his YouTube too.
I'll hit Cardi with the subscribe.
You want to let them know where they can find you?
I am Atrocious TCG on YouTube. I yap a lot and I don't play a lot in terms of my content. I just watch other people play and then talk about what they're doing because they're the best players, not me.
So my thoughts on Cabaji in OP09 meta, to be honest, I felt like Cabaji does add, another 4 Kaya effects. It does improve the deck, right? It's not a nerf at all. The only thing,
so you have to remember that, like, okay, so again, this is probably, coming from someone that doesn't play too much Nami, so you have to think about it from our lens of, okay, it does improve the deck. It makes the deck more extreme at the top end, but a lot weaker to aggro and a lot worse in the low end. Like you have a lot more setup, but your turns are more explosive. Like you have these situations where like, oh, I have so many cards, and then all of a sudden you find one Moji, you go Cabaji, Kaya, whatever. All of a sudden you've gone through like 7 cards in one single turn. And that's the power of something like that. So it can't happen.
I don't think it helps her losing matchups too much, right? It still seems that Purple Luffy and then Blue Doflamingo are just like too fast, even if they had Cabaji. Right. And then you're also having to run the 4 Moji, which are kind of useless cards in the deck. Jake mentioned it a lot, right? He mentioned that he would have liked to have played that Searcher Nami that searches for events, but Moji just has to take her spot. So I think that's a detriment in a way, right? To get the benefit of Cabaji, you have to cut 4 other good cards that you might.
I don't think they have to take that slot. Like I very easily think like the Mr. Ones, the Zeph, and 2 Brickfist could easily just be the Namis and then replace one of the Brickfist back to the Love. Because there has to be a point where you realize like you can just pivot to the regular Nami plan and Brickfist can bounce Kayas. So you can just pivot to that plan. Brickfist can just be removal as well. So you have to build this deck in such a way, in my opinion, you have to play 1-cost Nami and you have to build it in such a way where it's a 2-pronged plan. You can be explosive, but if you don't find the pieces coming together, you have to have the deck built in such a way where you can still win the game. And I don't think, like, I hate it when people cut Whitesnake or Mellows. They're just like uncuttable cards at this point. Like, do not cut Mellows. We're past that. There was like situations where like, okay, maybe like back then, but do not cut Mellows. Mellows are like uncuttable. I can see it in this version what Atrocious is trying to do to bounce stuff. So fair. This is just testing. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think Mellows cuttable anymore. It's a 4K that draws. It's 2 Dawn, draw card, 4K. Insane. So I think like very easily you could replace 3 characters with 3 characters, and then you can drop 2 events for 1 event and a character, and you would get plenty of hits off of 1 cost Nami. You'd very rarely miss. And yeah, I wouldn't, again, as I mentioned, work with the characters themselves and finding them, but it'd be more than enough to switch to an alt plan
to fit in the freaking Moji that really does nothing else for your deck. So it's kind of weird, right? So yeah, Cabaji does buff the deck, but it doesn't help out her losing matchups too much. And then whatever matchup she was winning, I think it would make her even more winning, right? Any slow deck, now that you have 8 Kaya, draw 2 effects, it's just going to be even more impossible for those leaders to win against Nami. But on the flip side, the decks that she has trouble with are still too quick for Nami, I think. So yeah, kind of conflicted.
Large agree.
Right? Because unbanning Cabaji would mean that decks that like maybe have like a 50-50 win rate into Nami, like they can barely like pull out a win if things go their way. That 50-50 is just going to get thrown out the window with Cabaji being introduced.
Like it almost makes it so like the matchups where you're playing like Zoro, like 9 cost Zoro and stuff like that, like you can just like pull it out of nowhere. Like you let the Zoro hit you. A lot of times, like if a Zoro comes down, you can survive like 1 turn with it, but you don't have the turn after. When decks like play 9 cost Zoro, you can now with like Cabaji unban, you can just go like Cabaji, draw enough cards, Cabaji, you're close, trigger, like take your hits, whatever. And you're like close enough to like get there a lot of the time.
But Nami herself is also a leader that doesn't really depend on that 50-50 matchup, right? You're playing Nami because you want to counter the meta. And at times where the meta is slower with decks like Lucci and BY Luffy and NO.
Remember, Car, you're playing Nami for the love of the game. No one's playing Nami for no meta call. You play Nami, you're playing it for the love of the game.
At the top, that's when Nami shines. That's just not right now. So, I don't know. I feel like just unban the card just to see what would happen, right? I don't think Nami's gatekeeping any leaders. She's not popular enough to like completely lock out every slow deck, and it will give her like a slight higher win rate into.
The only reason Nami's not popular is because the sentiment amongst a lot of casual TCG players is they hate mill and they can't beat it because they hate the idea of losing control of things they don't have or they thought they had control over. Nami operates on an axis that the rest of the TCG just isn't built to combat without large swaths of counters, and even skilled Nami pilots can work around some of those counters, pudding being like the most common one. And so when you have a deck like that, it frustrates a lot of people. They have a bad opinion about it. They don't play it. They don't learn the matchup. And so in the vast majority of like low level, like initial round, like regionals and like locals and a large majority of the sim, like you just have players that don't know anything about the Nami matchup. They don't play it right. They don't swing well. I've seen people swing 8K, which is like a horrible number to swing against Nami. They like swing 7 when they should just like swing more. They don't understand like the idea of like, you know, potentially having free 2Ks or whatever. Like they just swing bad. And in general, that just comes from matchup knowledge. And so the lack of popularity of this character is just because people hate the idea of this character. This character is actually a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. And I'm happy it's staying that way because the more this deck becomes popular, the less chance we have of getting support and the more chance this gets banned. The deck's actually really good. And in the hand of skilled pilots, way better than me, the deck does really well. So I'm saying my piece. That's all I want to do.
Some of her troublesome matchups, but not to a degree where it makes a difference from what we've seen in the testing today. So I would probably err on the side of unbanning him just to see what would happen. If it is as oppressive as people think it will be, just ban it again. That's fine, right? Just give us something new for once. So that's my take on it. But let me know what you guys think.
I think also like bringing over like my ideologies from like Magic and everything. I agree. On like Bandai won't do it, but I'm largely on the side of like unbans versus bans. Obviously, we're not at the point where like the ban list is like something extravagant. Like in Magic, there's like so many cards on the ban list. So yeah, like unban cards. But I'm also on the side of like banning cards versus leaders, which they've already broken. So I don't have my trust with them anymore. I do think, yeah, unban Cabaji. It's been so long for the sake of trying. But if we do that, I hope it's not just reban Cabaji or like change Nami. I hope it's like ban Impel Down or something like that. Like, I don't know. They won't ban Impel Down. It's just like a bad ban. Like it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know.
If you agree or not, leave it in the comments below. I know a lot of people kind of overrate the card. I'm definitely underrating it. Jake is probably more justifiably and rightfully so in being scared of Cabaji. He knows Nami more than me. So in the end, I could be just wrong, but that's just my gut feeling. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the video, if it was interesting for you, and then yeah, your thoughts on if Cabaji should be banned or not, or even like how you could fix Nami in the way that she could be meta but not like oppressive. And yeah, like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Check out that Sakazuki video.
Like, Nami is in that spot right now. Nami's not oppressive, still meta, just not great. Like, it's actually in that perfect spot right now. There's no other way to do it. If you change any text on her leader, like, I don't know, you could remove the Dawn X1 thing, make it Dawn X3. Like, I don't know. There's like no real way you could like make this leader like worse. Like, if you remove a life, the leader actually becomes significantly worse. If you, which would be crazy for a monocolor leader. If you change the additional rule to make it so it only happens on her turn, like the leader becomes unplayable. Like, Nami's perfect right now. There's no way to do it. Like, people want to make changes in Nami, like, you just can't. Nami's in a perfect place right now. Unbanning Cabaji, I think, like, in a vacuum is cool, but like in practicality is just not a good idea for where Nami as a leader wants to be in terms of like spotlight presence. Nami never wants to be meta because casuals can't handle it. They're just not good enough. That's just like the band-aid you have to rip off. A lot of casuals in this game just suck. I suck at this game. Those casuals are worse than me. They don't like mill because it just makes them lose their control over certain cards. And so when you make it so it's not only the casuals getting burned, but now the pro players or the good players are getting burned by Cabaji because their decks are too slow, that's when it becomes a problem. Bandai starts to pay attention and something happens. So
we went over as well.
Also, none of this is to like say anything negative about like Cardi, Kazuki, or like Atrocious, by the way. Like, I may be coming off as aggressive, but like, the content's great here. I'm just trying to provide my own commentary. So please don't take it in any such way where like I'm like blaming Car or anything like that. No. Like, my man's allowed to say what he is. Like, probably a much better One Piece player than me. So again, I'm not arguing with him. I'm like just trying to provide additional points.
Well, and again, a special shout out to Atrocious Jake for being the Nami pilot for this video. I would be totally lost without him. So yeah, check out his channel. I'll have it linked in the description below. I hope you guys like the collab too, right? Took quite a lot of effort to coordinate and come up with everything, so I hope the end result was worth it. I guess that's it. Right, thanks for watching. Bye.
Perfect. All right, well, hey, great video. Subscribe to Car, subscribe to Atrocious, but I think in general y'all know my thoughts on this, and I'll probably be doing some gameplay later this week on Cabaji in general, so let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And I don't know, Cabaji is a spicy unban. I'm just not sure if it's a good idea.